Welcome back to the Hybrid Color podcast, where we talk about everything film, funny, and advertising. Today, our guest is Howdy Brown, longtime friend of Kyle Embrio.
Yeah, we go way back.
Thanks for having me. I know this has been something we've been talking about for quite a while.
Yeah, it's long overdue.
Yeah, long overdue. I've been like, oh, yeah, sure. And finding the time to just come and set it up. I'm glad you guys pushed for it, because otherwise
it wouldn't get done.
I
know, it's crazy. That's just like
I'm
the
just
world
like,
we
I
live
don't
in.
know.
Especially since the whole podcast setup was broken down.
Yeah, we took it
We were
down
just
for
like, we'll do it later.
Yeah, even like the new look. We kind of flipped the thing around. We kind of like experimenting.
This feels like, in this direction, I don't know why, but in this direction it feels way more sportcasty.
I think so too.
When there's like the wall behind you.
I think it's having the wall in front of you. Yeah. Do you want to get into a little bit of your background and who you are?
Yeah. Kyle and I do go way back. There's a lot of fun trips and memories and all kinds of history working together over 5 years, I believe, together at the same company. But I currently work for, and as of the end of 2024, own Channel Films, which is the former name of the production company prior to 2016. It was Alaska Channel, and that's where Kyle and I worked. Channel Films in some way hasn't changed that much from when Kyle was there. We've just continued to diversify different types of projects and have like just a little bit different flavor of film. However, there's, as you know, and we know, is just all these collaborations as well that we'll do together. Kind of like a friendly, like, let's see what we can like push for and get excited about and show each other.
We've done that for years.
Even one-upping each other. I think it's always funny.
Yeah, it started at Alaska Channel.
Yeah,
I was like, I challenge Howdy, and he would like do something. I'm like, dang, okay, let me like try to figure out how to.
It's like a healthy, like, kind of way of being like, all right, check this out, what I can do, check, this type of project out. It's trying to be like, I know you guys can do it too.
Yeah.
I want everybody, I want to
elevate.
see everybody elevate. And that goes for my team, and that goes for peers and everything. I get excited about that kind of stuff.
For sure.
Yeah, I think even when I see you guys put out stuff, I think it even elevates us as a company, because we're like, damn, that's good.
Yeah.
We can't be slipping on these projects anymore.
Well, there's like a similar size factor too, because you can, in this world of productions, you can kind of analyze, like, we don't have a volume here in Alaska, and you know, you can kind of get an understanding of what like 30 people on a set can do and whatever. But with the size, we're like, wow, with 3 people, in 3 months, or like those kind of things. You're like, okay, it opens it up. I see you guys do stuff, and I was like, I feel like I could go and do something like that too. I wanna figure that out.
Yeah, and a lot of it was even like challenges and things that he's encountered or I've encountered on projects. I'm like, kind of, I see where it got hung up.
Sharing
like,
the knowledge.
Can you tell me like what you could have, how could you got in front of this sooner? Or was it just out of your control? Like all kinds of things like that. Those are the fun things for me to understand about film and like producing things. Because everything you have to like get buy-in or get somebody to help, or like even, want to do it and want to push the envelope. You know what I mean?
You're almost getting like double the experience.
For sure, because it's like, it's a weird one to explain, because I've always like tried to define it in my head. Like, okay, I think Howdy's like a competitor, but also a friend, but also like a student of mine, but a mentor of mine. It's weird. Like we move around roles. I was at Channel. He was hired by me essentially. And so like basically he comes in and he's hungry and he has like these traits, and I'm like, this is interesting. And kind of over the years we just evolved and got this like relationship. We learned how to like do production together.
Yeah.
Because like we had to like figure it out and test all those theories and like define it. And then once I went off and he stayed there and continued that, he like blossomed it into something way different than I was even at Channel. Channel looked totally different when he took over. And I was just watching and I was like, this is so cool.
That's crazy.
We have this like running joke over at Channel and everything, and Dimitri, who used to be with us, would call it like Alaska Channel lore or Channel lore or whatever.
Yeah.
There's just all these. He's like, you need to know the history. He like thought it was a bit.
That's awesome.
And like one of those bits was for people to understand is when maybe you and I were breaking in to this there were no large format video cameras or large sensor video camera. Like everything looked like video. So you're like, it
Ew.
overall.
Yeah.
And you just know that there's like film somewhere else, and
It's that beautiful thing with the burns and like the flares and all this.
Right.
The cool stuff.
coming onto Alaska Channel, there were some projects that were far beyond just what I had overseen in this market, that I was like, I'm going to take advantage of these opportunities, because this is something that I would either have to go to one of the film hubs and be an assistant for 15 years, or I have a documentary that I'm shooting at 21, and I'm like,
Yeah.
What?
who gets to do this?
I don't know. That's what I felt like.
I think it's interesting how many people ask, did you go to school for this? Especially when I was younger. A lot of people would ask me, like, no, I just either taught myself or learned from Kyle and on-job training.
Right.
I think it's pretty cool. But before we get too far, I want to back up a little bit. Did you ever plan on doing any of this?
Yeah, I guess that is a good thing to back up into. Origins, I suppose, is I didn't plan on doing any of this until I basically had some realities with sports in my life, and being like, oh, there's a camp, and like people go to the camp and they get, on the team. Like, I wasn't able to necessarily participate with all of that, and was like, you know what, I'm just not going to do this anymore. Around high school. And at the same time, I had picked up a Sony extremely low megapixel camera and absolutely had a blast using this camera, and just really enjoyed photography. That's how I got introduced to a lot of this. So it's like figuring out what this camera could do. And it probably had like a video feature, but I never used it for video because it just looked horrific. I upgraded to one other camera, and it had like a little bit better video. And some of my friends had a camera that they used for like filming snowboarding,
Like a VX or something?
It was like a Handycam.
Oh, okay.
It's just high 8, just a normal high 8 Handycam, and a FireWire to a computer.
Wow.
So
The good old days.
the good old days.
The good old days where you had to piece stuff together. Things were
Well, yeah. It took, if you shot an hour of footage, took an hour to put it into the computer, because you had to play it back real time
and move it. Yeah.
Sounds terrible.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Tape to tape, bro. It was like, we started on tape. It just kind of was like, I have friends that skateboard, snowboard, and I have a computer and my friend has a camera. Kind of like how it kicked off. Some of the early projects are lost. They're no longer anywhere for anyone to see. However, like a project that kind of like kicked off a little bit more of me thinking about it as detailed would be like high school projects. So that's kind of like where I started, and I started getting really motivated about my friends being involved and doing different things with the camera, and getting pretty excited about the process itself within those years. And by the end of high school, I had completed a 30-minute like sports documentary, or just like a highlight season
Of like
video.
your high school teams?
Yeah, of like a high school wrestling team. And that gave me this like audience consideration thing that was different. It was like, oh yeah, I did a project, 3 minutes of its history, 5 minutes of it is bloopers and BTS.
Yeah.
And the class and the teacher and everybody were like, this is great. They didn't even care that we were doing some pretty dangerous things on the video even.
Yeah.
And they're just like, cool. I'm glad you're engaging,
and you're expressing yourself. And it's like
healthy. So there's something there with being allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And then it graduated into people were in a theater watching this piece, and I was like, I don't know, I just kind of got obsessed with it. So that's a little bit of the beginning. And at that stage in high school, I was looking at film schools. I was looking at how to really dive into it in a different realm.
Okay. So you obviously didn't end up going to school for it.
Ended up being accepted to the Brooks Institute of Photography through just timing. They wouldn't allow anybody into the school before they were 18. And I was like a couple months before that. And I already had some credits, what was called like drafting, building information modeling. And I just rolled over into UAA. And even though I was really motivated about getting into film school, I was not really great at getting into anywhere else. Yeah, I had a lot of people help me just like finally get into school and figure that out. But yeah, I actually ended up graduating with from UAA with a totally different degree and did that schooling by day and actually landed internship and freelance work by night.
That's pretty cool. You were just doing that by yourself then?
There was a little bit of by myself, but I had my one in, and Kyle knows him, but I had a family friend as well. Tyler.
Yeah. Gates.
Tyler Gates.
Yeah.
Heard that he was involved he went to film school and he was working for Larry Moore and Associates. Used to be over there on Diamond.
Yeah.
And he recruited me up. He remembered that I had done some projects and I was interested in it. And he's like, hey, we're looking for somebody to come in here and intern. And I was like, sweet. I already know how to edit. I know how to move tapes over.
Dude,
and
so stoked.
And I was extremely pumped. But my first tasks for like the first month was organize the gear room.
You gotta start somewhere, cut.
Transfer audio reel-to-reel tapes and put stickers on DVDs. And I was like stoked.
Stoked, bro.
I was very happy to be there.
I think it's funny because when I started at Hybrid, they would just kind of like tell me to go through footage and just cut selects. And looking back on it, it's probably like get familiar with like the process and the program and all that. And I remember like one day they just told me to pull everything out and do inventory. Mm-hmm. And I took a photo of everything, wrote everything down. And I don't know. I just thought it was so fun though, like just being in the space.
Oh yeah. I was just not exposed to that. I was completely like, oh, I had a family member help me buy a Mac and I was like, there's stuff on here that works for what I want to do. And I think even before I was hired, I even tried to shoot a 24-hour film. That's actually how I like met Aaron and Woodruff and all of them because they were inside UAA. I was already kind of starting to get aware of who was doing film on campus too. Yeah. And I tried to make one and I had like massive file corruption happen and didn't end up finishing any of that project. But I was still like engaged in that, and being in that environment, it was a game changer for me. And even though it's not exactly what I wanted to do, it was a really big turning point. I learned quite a lot from Larry Moore and got some extreme basics on tech because even though I was like, oh, look at this tape, and that process is terrible. He had actually purchased the Panasonic P2, so that was one of the first cameras that had.
Yeah, dude, that was like
the card.
Dude, I remember seeing that, the purple cards.
Yeah, so it had the first camera. You're like, oh, it has a memory card, and that was like,
dude,
okay,
the future was here.
He's got a pretty good camera. It's still not large format film looking, but it's a nice camera. And then the other spectrum of that was I wasn't touching that camera yet. I was hooking up his 700 different BNC SDI cables. I had to memorize the different, like every single color value between all this box that we loaded up in his ambulance and brought it to do like Alaska General Contractors events, the statehood events. And I was like showing up and I'm just like hooking up. And I was like, Larry, like, you could do this a lot easier without this equipment from the 80s. Like all of it's moved over. It had already changed.
Yeah, like we went and worked for all the older cats.
It put a lot of your groundwork, your base knowledge that I knew how to do that. I knew how to set it up. When that was what was asked of me, and I did it.
So that was your first like official job in the industry?
I brought coffee, organized the gear room. That's what I did.
You have to understand the film industry back then. It was like you could do it for work, like doing what Howdy's talking about for Larry Moore or Channel. Like Channel was interesting because there wasn't really many companies doing this. There was only a handful of people doing like production because the barrier to entry was very expensive. As things got like more and more accessible, the industry changed, and at that moment we were kind of up and coming into it, and we worked at Alaska Channel and we got to do great projects for Alaska Channel, but we still at heart we're always kind of like we're filmmakers, right? Like that's what we want to make, these like interesting stories, whether they're horror or like sci-fi, but these other types of things a lot of people wanted to do. So that's what Hybrid Color was for. Hybrid Color was an outlet that we created to try to like build like a film team, because at that time too, other people in town like Scarface, Electric Igloo, these other teams were forming of filmmakers. We had like our little groups. There's like a lot of cool. The industry was just buzzing, dude.
Yeah,
like, it was buzzing at that time.
I think it was actually extremely related to the memory card thing. As nerdy as that sound,
it was the access.
Because there's all those. There's like the film, then there's like beta, then there's like tape, then there's memory card, and then there's digital SLR, which we started right before.
Yeah, right before
we digital SLR.
Can we briefly go over the experience of you and Kyle working together at Alaska Channel?
Yeah, it was wild times. There's a lot going on with that team, and I tell this story a bunch. I had left to do summer work. Tyler Gates had departed and started Ice Cap. He had, I guess, pitched my name and also showed me the race. He's like,
Rondi,
yeah, he's like, check out Rondi the race.
I did a rod to camping trip, they were out there dilly-dallying around for weeks on end. And Rendezvous, jeez, is like a quarter-mile drag strip.
I've never done it. I'm nervous.
The team that wins is the team that makes the fewest mistakes.
I still got the dogs. Just soon come run you down.
I'll be the team to beat.
Buddy? Who the hell is Buddy?
When you take off on 4th Avenue on that snow, there isn't an ice cube's chance of hell you being able to stop that dog team.
And I was like, oh, this has this look. It is different than like what Larry Moore and these other video type projects are doing, where it's like someone's in front of camera and talking to it, and really commercially in a way. So I was like, okay, I want to see like what they're doing, and that's kind of like the introduction, is that I went in and I actually interviewed with Kyle, told him a little bit of my experience and what I'm about. They had documentary, they had social cause, they had a lot of different projects that were extreme interest to me. It was going and sitting in people's homes, listening to their stories, and in pushing ourselves to create artful work.
Because even, at the time, that was like the biggest production house in town, right?
I mean, like a channel at that time, Alaska Channel was big because they had the channel and all the hotels and everything. But when Howdy came, we basically like had to kind of figure out our way. And I kind of built a new team. Like Howdy said, I was trying to push the envelope with the pieces. We were getting some interesting things like Rondi and a lot of stuff in rural Alaska. And I was like, this stuff is interesting. And like, I don't know that anybody's talking about it. And then Howdy was on that same program. We were like, how do we make this stuff look good? And we knew it was possible.
That's just the style of making these videos or films that we were into, is not to knock any other type of industry, but I was like, I had other offers or other ideas of going to and contacts that may lead to like broadcast related, news related. And I was like, I'm not interested in that type of production. It's a different
Very,
field and way that they process and what they look for in putting pieces together. There's a lot of crossover, but I was like, they don't shoot like films on for broadcast really.
Yeah, that's interesting. I even have like a kind of similar story to that, but it's just wild. Do you have any memories or like, I guess memories that just come to mind in that kind of tenure of you guys working together?
There's a lot of memories. It's projects that stand out or stuff that we did in Bristol Bay that was really important to kind of hooking me into the work. I was like, oh, I am a Newpack Alaska native. I have family from rural Alaska, but I've never gone there actually. And I just have this kind of like family community that I know about and I know a little bit about, but I was like, wow, I get to actually work and then go travel out here, these places that I've just heard about. And that was like a hook. Doing long form documentary for Ketchikan, that project blew me away. And
can we hold on? Is that the one you guys spent 21 days down there for?
24.
Yeah, we lived in
straight.
an efficiency apartment, and Kyle was the big boss and got the bedroom.
Yeah, they had to
We slept on the pull-out beds.
That's awesome.
to be with a team that long and that close. But I'm telling you, that's how we grew, man. Soak it all in and like be immersed in it. And it's like you said, OJT, it's like you learn so much quicker when you're just there and doing it. And like even being on location and having the ability to do that. I think sometimes nowadays, even with like YouTube and how people do projects, like not everybody gets to go travel somewhere for a few days and make something with the team. Like that's a big deal.
We talk about that a lot too, is I describe it as like, you can go to film school and you can get all of you can read all of this stuff online even, but you're not like, it's different. It's doing it and being in the moment of problem solving with what you have in front of you. Every project is a little bit of a film school experience of what you get out of it. I even described that to my team at the end of the year. I was like, look, there's a transactional aspect here. You come in, you make a video. We have this first client that wants a video. However, every ounce of experience that you get out of the project, or you try something and you push yourself, that actually is, yes, it's valuable for the production company itself, but it actually is, it's kept with you. You're the sole person that gets to take that experience all the way throughout your whole career. And every project really has that capability, and those projects change the way that I view and understand pulling videos and films together in the state.
So Kyle leaves Channel Films and leaves you in charge.
Yeah, he kind of dropped quite a bit on me, but I
think you can handle it, dog.
I was very.
I was confident,
and I was a pretty ambitious person in general, of just being like, I'm going to just figure out how to make something happen. And it was 23, about 24, and
yeah.
And I had, like the largest tourism project that I've ever seen come through Alaska Channel, and a documentary that Nick Bradford directed, and I, consulted and helped on, and throughout the process, that was also a long, not really long form, but a longer documentary film. And this is how much I was obsessed. I was just obsessed with making things. So,
I've always stayed close to Alaska Channel and Channel Films, and we've always supported each other. They've always supported me, and we have a great relationship. And so to me, I felt some type of way. I was like, I want to make sure that this place is in good hands and has it. And they like, Howdy was a big part of that because Bob was definitely asking me. He's like, I mean, he was like, Howdy. And I'm like, he's got it. I was like, he's got that kind of attitude. He like wants to understand it. He like wants to figure it out, and he will figure it out. Like he just won't accept no. He will figure it out.
Yeah.
He will not. I was almost like he won't fail. I was kind of like, that's where I was at with it.
It's pretty wild because that's pretty, like, now being this age, that is like a lot. Me putting in myself and not knowing who that other person is, I'm like, I don't know, like on paper, if that makes sense totally, to just be like, okay, the success of this business is now on that person, and they've never done, you only have what they've participated in as like the measurement.
Looking back now, did it go the way you would have hoped, or better maybe? Like looking back to when basically you took the lead, Kyle passed the torch, and you kind of were controlling, basically like creative director, right?
Yeah. I think that it did turn out quite well. I don't know if I have a way to like say better than expected. I have pretty aspirate. I was just like, I'm going to shoot for the moon and take opportunities. So I had a pretty high bar for myself on what we wanted to do. When you're in that position, there's things that you can't take advantage of. There's a couple of projects that come through and people are interested in doing things, but they want to do it with you directly, that I had to say no to and kind of stick to like, okay, actually, I think this is the true place that I should be putting my time. That seems really cool and big for me in the moment. However, this is actually going to pay off. And I feel like it has paid off. It positioned myself for partnering, for kind of move into a place where I can have a lot more say in projects.
The rebrand, were you heading that, or what was that?
So when we moved from Alaska Channel to Channel Films,
Yeah,
I had been trying to figure out that for, I feel like it was like in this cusp area of before
When I was leaving?
when you were leaving.
Yeah, because we were
like,
logo.
we were
doing something
we
with
were
the logo.
thinking
We started
about
messing with
it.
the
We
logo.
started messing around with it, and we just ran into people like thought channel meant Alaska Channel meant something different. They just were not familiar with this. Not that that's a bad thing, but the type of work that we were aiming for and the type of work that we were kind of involved with, kind of thought, you're like, wait a minute, they want to do a video for us about responsible development or, something, a topic, but they're going to put it on their channel, or like, it was very confusing.
Yeah.
And the people that knew us. However, after Kyle left, it did take a couple of years of like trying to figure that out. And rebrand, as you know, is a pretty heavy lift, getting that all the way transitioned. And I would credit like Emma Sheffer coming into the team really.
No, she's a rock star, dude.
Well, it just opened up, like she had bandwidth and I had more bandwidth, and all of a sudden there was a little bit more that we could tackle, and got that name change done. The demo reel done. That was a big shift for us.
It was cool to see from my seat. I was like, dude, this is like legit.
and that's currently what it is today, right?
Yeah, currently today, that's what it's called. You can kind of hear or see there's a bit of a compromise inside the brand identity of itself being Channel. However, the name is just a part of it. There's all this extra stuff, and that was the theory, and I think the theory like paid off. Now, will it stay Channel Films into the future? It may change again as we like rework our identity.
I mean, you do get brand recognition if you stay something for a long time, so you want to like build off of it, but sometimes you do need to like rip it down to the foundation and redo something. Like, I like this plot of land I'm looking from, but I want to build something different on it.
Yeah. I don't like the way this house is. The floor
Seriously.
plan.
And it could be that. And it's like, even like when you're like, we can even talk about that. I think is an interesting segue, is like how our team has evolved. Like, even you, Trey, being with me for so long now. Like, it's
Trey's been here.
Trey's been here forever.
Forever.
And it's
10
like
years.
10 years, bro.
Holy cow.
What's up, guys? I'm Traden Scott with Hybrid Color, and we're going to be going over my first impressions of my new camera. That's really cool. Even just seeing like basically like I'm another one just coming up the chain.
Yeah. And like, yeah, just and it's cool. I like seeing like when you do projects or when Howdy would do projects, seeing each other like, hey, check this out. He still does that. Like, look at this project I did. What do you think? I'm like, this is just, and then I show you guys even. Like sometimes I'll like, you guys got to come in here, see the new thing channel.
Yeah.
Peep this.
That's pretty cool to hear. Like, I feel like I've heard it, your background, but that is pretty similar to me. I'm completely like self-taught. I just figured out where the pieces were and was that obsessed. I would have loved all the connections inside film school, but the work that I've been a part of, I'm now seeing a couple different connections or people reaching out. I've created almost something even more unique than anybody coming out of film school. There's frustrations definitely of being like, well, and then I would have been, or could have been on this project, or Interstellar was my idea.
I literally wrote that.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, I was like, no, actually, and it was kind of cool hearing that Emma is in architecture school at Harvard, and she's like, yeah, people were like blown away about your experience or her experience. And she was just saying like, yeah, I was reflecting on it. I was like, we've done like a lot of things all over the place and worked through all kinds of problems and are extremely unique in the sphere of all filmmakers. So I'm pretty proud of that.
As a Alaskan Native filmmaker, are there any projects that you've gotten that you are particularly proud of?
I would say that there is a parallel line to working through and discovering a bit about myself that lines up with these projects. It's just like I kind of had this, and I didn't necessarily feel like I was extremely connected to family outside of South Central area, and I was just like, God, I know a little bit about that. I know the background, like corporation. I know a little bit about this stuff, but then all of a sudden, being at a production house that there are these like Alaska Native organizations and corporations and tribal entities, and they're like trying to tell their story. Yeah, it just like fit really well. I was like, I'm extremely interested in learning more about my culture and cultures across Alaska and similarities and differences. I ask like, I know several words in my dad's language, and I'd just go around and be like, what do you guys say? Or like, I'm just like really curious, what do you do differently? Like I grew up having smoked fish and muck duck and seal meat, black meat, like all these dishes. And I'm like, oh, they have herring eggs down here. And we're like, yeah, let's get some herring. Like it was like a perfect fit of going in line with what I'm interested in. And that led to extreme involvement in the projects that I got to be a part of. I just looked at it as like, wow, I get to do these. I'm going to do something that I feel like, I wish I would have seen or known about, kind of like what our history is and what our practices and traditional activities are. Like that's something that I draw into my actual process itself. Yeah. I was pretty proud of the Ketchikan project and the Bristol Bay project that we did, but those are the old ones. More recently, doing work on the original regional video for Chugach Alaska Corporation, hearing where this kind of corporation was at and figuring out how to communicate that to people. I was like, I kind of like understand this, coming in as someone that is involved with it, but also learning about it at the same time, which then led to doing the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act.
Yeah, which we watched that one, remember?
Having that also have a wider audience so that people didn't necessarily see it told in a extremely like just book type format. I was like, I want people to really kind of feel a little bit of the thought process or where people were at. And there's like courses, over a year courses over at the UAA. It's a really multifaceted, kind of proud about how quickly and succinctly and how that one came together.
That's got to be pretty fulfilling.
Yeah.
I've always thought about that from your perspective. It's like, we did, Our Native Legacy together, and then we did, BB and C together. And like, I was in the same boat as Howdy. Like, this stuff is just interesting stuff. But even to see Howdy, I could watch Howdy processing it from that perspective. Like, he would go out and he would actually go do things when we'd be out places. I'd be like, "Where's Howdy?" Like, "Oh, he's off
Just hanging out with
doing
the people.
something." I'm like, but he was exploring and like trying to learn things, and like I was most excited to see how that was actually going to materialize when I left, and it was him to become the creative director, and to watch the pieces for the corporations and things when he started doing them. They had like a different. There was like a different, like they were like different. They felt different, and I was like, "This is interesting. I like what I'm seeing
That's
here."
really cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's quite a few projects, and I really enjoy trying to also really think about what those how those projects come together and what they mean.
I almost feel like I've noticed that you just make things feel more important and valuable, and I think that's what the secret of like really good like information and filmmaking is for those types of.
Well, that's just how I see them.
Yeah,
So,
and it shows, which is cool.
come in contact with another Inupiaq filmmaker that I admire and started getting to know, Rachel Edwardson. She has introduced me to some of these ideas that I've like only thought about, and she's like kind of worked out more processes and how that works in larger scale projects of people
that's
coming
cool.
in and they're like, we want to do a project on the whaling and all of this, and she's got this list of like how to try to
Make that happen.
make that happen
Mhm.
with holding on to creative aspects, not having it be like, oh, someone comes in, they're like, let's do whaling. Hey, we hired an Inupiaq person and they're going to carry the bags for us and tell us where to eat. And we checked a box that said that we did that for people, but more of being like a true collaborator.
You have to understand that place to have
Mhm.
success there. You can't just like go up in there and do whatever you want. You have to understand the hierarchy I've talked about before. Like, we're guests here. There's certain things here, and we need to, and we've learned that over years and years of filming.
And there's history with people doing that as well that creates an effect. When we were in Ketchikan, we had people not show up to scheduled interviews because honestly, like Discovery Channel came in the week before and spooked everybody with cameras in their faces. So there is a process of having a little bit more understanding as a form of respect for going into those environments.
It makes the film better.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes the
extremely.
product better. I mean, there's no way to slice it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Where do you guys see yourself going from here in the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10. Wow.
Or maybe even shorter, 3 to 5?
Trying to figure out how to get everything set up this year.
Got to get a new server.
Got to get a new battery for my server.
Yeah, battery.
I'm just really interested in kind of developing projects outside of the commercial sphere. Very inspired, and obviously been following along with Hockey Town as it's come along, as I'm like, all right, what happened here? And I want to be a part of that type of filmmaking. We get to do it here and there, but having this level of time of work and experience that's where that stage is at, is like you really had to know somebody maybe 10 years prior to like get certain types of projects off the ground. But now it's at a stage where it's like, actually there is some credibility that now has been built up.
Oh yeah, and contacts and even relationships.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, now what should I do with these and put together that I would like to see developed and worked on. There's like
Just cool things
happening in this space with more Indigenous storytelling and other filmmaking within the state. And it's kind of a little bit of the vision of where Hybrid Color kind of came out, is that it's like, no, we can just make what we want to do here. And we don't need to be like, hey, we have a great idea. Can we please get a director and DP from LA to come here and help us make our film. No, we want to just make our film and make it here.
Yeah.
I want to participate in that.
I like asking this question. We've talked about it at length, but this format, this one's probably unique for you, obviously.
Yeah, this one's a little bit different than the in passing stuff that I've done. I'm not really a big fan of just being on camera and kind of having these it's helpful in this format versus like, even though I do interviews and I'm like, come on, relax, everybody.
Yeah.
Let me do that.
Exactly.
When I'm in that situation, it's like
The same as
it's
that.
just
Yeah,
bad.
I get it. Yeah.
And I actually was talking with Hannah on the team about it, and I was like finding out today that she has a very similar experience where I describe it as a superpower of nonlinear kind of like thought processes and thinking. However, it divulges into complete nightmare terror in my mind when I'm like being on camera, is that I think about like probably infinite possibilities of interpretation and
Of what you're saying and how it maybe you can see.
yeah, but it's helpful when it's in this format. I think this is interesting. It's useful. It's kind of like gives a certain aspect of intentionality to what we would like to try to get through in a conversation. Though I saw like a great meme of this, of like these guys like hanging out having beers and they're like, look at, we just raw dog and podcast without equipment. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of like another
podcast is just hanging out with your boys.
yeah, it's like you could just go hang out and talk through stuff. And we do that often, like come by here, or we talk quite a bit. Well, we're wearing AirPods and doing something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's different. It's good.
Sick.
Cool.
All right.
I think that's it. Thank
Yeah.
you for
Is
your
that
time.
what you
Howdy.
got? Is that what you guys wanted?
That's it, man. Yeah. Thanks.
We'll see you when we get in the cutting room.
Yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
We'll be watching.
Big fans. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.